everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Sarah, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet Hailey the Hippo. This is my own pattern that you can find in my pattern shops if you are interested in them. I have a Ribbler version and a coffee version. If you get the coffee version, you'll get a PDF that you can download and or print. Before I get in today's video, I do have a very quick disclaimer, and that is I do crochet pretty quickly, so make sure to pause, slow down, and replay the video as you need. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'll try and answer them as quickly as I can. But without further ado, let's get into the materials list. So for materials, you're going to need some yarn. Today I will be using Sweet Snuggles Light in this blue-gray, and you'll also need a secondary color. I usually use white. I guess this could be an optional step because you can make the toes a solid color rather than a different color, but I like to make them white. Also for yarn, I use a size 4 yarn. This is what I use to start my magic ring, or I'll usually use this when I sew the limbs on, but today I'll just be using the size 6 yarn. But I will be using this to start my magic rings still. You'll need a crochet hook to go with your yarns. You can use any yarn you'd like as long as you use the correct hook size for it. So for today I will be using a 5mm hook. You'll also need a pair of scissors and a sewing needle. I'll be using this plastic one today. You'll also need some stuffing. You don't need a whole ton, this project isn't too big. And you'll also need some safety eyes, or you could always embroider them. I have a tutorial for that. I actually have a couple tutorials for that on my channel. For my hippo, I will be using 16mm safety eyes. Again, adjust the eyes as needed depending on your yarn type and everything. I believe that is it for materials, so now we can begin crocheting. We're going to begin with the body. So for this, I'm going to use my size 4 yarn to start my magic ring. Now you can use the chain 2 method or any other method you'd like to start your magic ring. And in your magic ring, you're going to single crochet 6. And once you finish with your magic ring, go ahead and close it up. And for round 2, we are going to increase in each stitch. So this is 2 single crochets in each stitch. Now what I like to do is secure my magic ring. So I do this by pulling everything nice and tight and securing it with a couple of knots. For round 3, we are going to increase into the next 3 stitches, so 2 single crochets 3 times. And now we are going to make our first nostril. So the way I do this is by chaining 2, and then in that second chain, place a single crochet. I do this in the back hump right here. That way the chain stays nice and clean looking. And now we're going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches, but to ensure I don't have a gap between the nostril, what I like to do is put my hook through the side of the single crochet and then straight into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through all of those loops, and then finish the single crochet. I find this just closes any gap that may be there from adding the nostril. And now we are going to add the second nostril, so go ahead and chain 2 again. Single crochet in that second chain from hook. And now we're going to increase in the next 3 stitches. So again, I'm going to grab the side of the single crochet, insert my hook into the next stitch, pull through all of those, and finish my single crochet. And then I'm just going to single crochet again to complete my increase. Now we're going to single crochet in the final 2 stitches. For the next round, we are going to single crochet in each stitch. Make sure you single crochet around the nostril, that way it sticks out. And here is the nose finished. For the next round, we are going to single crochet 5. And then we are going to increase in the next 6 stitches. And single crochet in the remaining 7 stitches. For the next 2 rounds, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. And here are 2 single crochet rounds finished. During this next round, we are going to add the ears. Now, when you add the ears, you might need to adjust them. It depends on whether you crochet with the yarn over or yarn under, or your tension or your yarn type. So feel free to add or take away single crochets so that the ears are even with the nostrils. I will be crocheting 7, so I'll single crochet 7. Now I will make my first ear, chain 3, single crochet in the second chain from hook. Again, I stay in those back loops. Now we are going to double crochet in that final chain. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2, and then yarn over through the final 2. And there is 1 ear. So same thing with the nostril. I'm going to make this gap disappear. And we're going to single crochet in the next 9 stitches. You want to make sure that the ear will line up. Mine should line up, but sometimes I find it really hard to tell until after the ear is officially made. We're going to make our second ear by chaining 3, single crocheting in the second chain from hook, double crochet in that last chain. Go ahead and use that same technique if you're using it, and single crochet in the next stitch. And you can single crochet in the remaining stitches. But before I continue on, I am going to make sure these line up. It doesn't need to be perfect, but as close as you can get it. So here you can kind of see the bottom of the nostril lines up with the bottom of the ear, and so does this one. This one may be a tiny bit lower, but I still think it looks fairly nice. So I'm going to finish this round. we're going to single crochet in each stitch around. Make sure to crochet around the ears just like we did with the nostrils as well. And once you finish that single crochet round, we're going to go ahead and insert our safety eyes. This is kind of the tedious part because you have to make sure you line it up with the nose and the ears. You're going to insert the safety eyes between rounds 6 and 7. So if you're like me, it's the first and second single crochet round of the head, and you're going to want to insert them in line with the ear and the nostril. Again, just like every other part of this pattern, feel free to adjust the placement as needed. I'm going to put the other eye in. I'm going to put mine up a little bit higher so that I can see them better from the front angle. See if that looks strange or not. Nope, I think that looks quite cute. So I personally like to shape my face. You don't have to do this, but essentially it's just sinking the eyes in. I personally think it looks a lot nicer, which I'll show you how to do once the body's finished, but that's why I'm pressing them in a little bit before I secure the backs, because I want to make sure they look nice. But I think that looks pretty cute. Now the eyes are nice and secured, so we can move on to the next round. For the next round, we are going to decrease 12 times. I use the invisible decrease, but you can use any decrease that works for you. And feel free to stuff the head as you decrease. I personally like to stuff the head once I finish my increase rounds of the body. Here's the decrease round finished and our head also finished. So now we can start the body. For the next round, we are going to single crochet in each stitch. Now for the next round, we are going to increase single crochet twice, and we'll repeat that 4 times total. For the next round, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. For the next round, we're going to increase, and then we're going to single crochet 3, and we'll repeat that 4 times total. For the next round, we're going to single crochet in each stitch around. And for our final increase round, we are going to increase, single crochet 4 times, and then we will repeat that 4 times. Now I'm going to stuff the head, but first I'm actually going to zoom you guys out a little bit because I do not want to hit the camera and make you sick. I know it makes me sick while editing. There we are. Now I'm going to stuff the head. Once you've stuffed your head, we move on with the rest of the body. For the next 4 rounds, we are going to single crochet in each stitch. Here we are at the end of our single crochet rounds, and this is what the body is looking like. So now we're going to move on to the decrease rounds. Now during this next round, we are going to add the tail. This is the same thing that we did with the ears, where you may need to adjust it. Now because it's going to be during our decrease round, you might have to adjust it in, I don't know, kind of a strange way, I guess is the best way to describe it. So for this decrease round, we are decreasing, and then we are single crocheting twice. So if you need to add your tail between 2 single crochets, just make sure that you finish those 2 single crochets and then decrease again. Hopefully I'm making any sort of sense, but I'm going to decrease and then single crochet twice, 4 times total, to get me to my top of the body so I can add the tail. So now looking at it, I'm going to take one of these single crochets out and add the tail. And then when I finish the tail, I'm just going to single crochet the next stitch. Hopefully that makes sense. But to make the tail, you're going to chain 4. Slip stitch into that second chain from hook. Single crochet in the next chain. And then double crochet into that final chain. And there you have your tail. So we'll do the same thing we did with the other pieces and just crochet into the side of that single crochet to close any gap that may be there. And now I'm going to finish my decreases, so decrease, single crochet 2, do that twice. And there we have our tail. Mine is looking like it might be a tiny bit off. I don't know, maybe it's even. It's not a big deal though, because nobody will notice. You can begin stuffing now. I'm gonna wait till after the next round. For the next round, we're going to decrease, and then we're going to single crochet once and repeat that 6 times total. Now I'm going to stuff the body. Now for our final round, we are going to decrease 6 times. Now we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch, chain 1 and fasten off, leaving a kind of short end. We still need to close the bottom hole with this. And if you need more stuffing, feel free to add it now. I think mine will need a tiny bit more stuffing. Okay, now we're going to close up our bottom hole. I'm going to do this with my plastic needles. Go ahead and thread your needle. And then I'm going to pick all the front loops up of these single crochets and then pull tight to close this. I like to go through the first one as well, just to close that loop and really make it nice and circular. There's the bottom hole closed. Now I like to secure this end really quick just by creating a loop and pulling it nice and tight. And I personally like to tuck my ends in with the back of my needle, that way I don't have to save any scraps. And here is our body pretty much finished. We still have to shape the face, but everything else is done. I'm going to use this needle to even the stuffing out a little bit on its head. So I'm going to be using this needle to shape the face. I usually stick with the plastic needle when working with this size 6 yarn, but it is much easier to shape the face with a longer needle. I find personally that metal needles tend to destroy the size 6 yarn a lot easier than plastic ones. To shape the face, you're going to stick your needle in any stitch on the bottom, and we're going to come up on the bottom corner of the eye. Either eye, it doesn't matter. And then we're going to go 1 stitch above that and across to the other eye. Just like this, create a loop. And you want to do the exact same thing on the other side, so just go 1 stitch down. And we're going to come back to the original eye. Back in that same corner right here. And go 1 stitch above to the top middle of the eye. And repeat that process with the other eye as well. So here's our second loop. And then when you do that with the second eye, go ahead and take the yarn back down to the other end. This is where we will secure the ends. So now what I like to do is push the eyes in and then pull the ends as I do that. That way the yarn doesn't snap, especially if you're using sensitive yarn like Sweet Snuggles Light. Because I use the Sweet Snuggles Light, usually I use the size 4 yarn, but I don't really have a blue that matches this. And so it pulls up a little bit of stuffing, so you can just pull that out. But I'm gonna pull these in a little bit more. Trying to decide if this went too far. So you can always stick your needle back in and adjust the eyes before securing them. I think that looks pretty cute. So now I'm going to trim the working end and then tie these two ends together nice and tight. Usually as time goes on, the eyes will kind of unsync a little bit, so it's okay if it's a little bit tighter. Go ahead and weave these ends in once they're secure. And here's the body fully finished. My favorite part about this pattern is the fact that you do not need to make the ears and tail and all the extra details separately. The only thing you have to make are the legs now, but here's the body finished, looking pretty good. Go ahead and make the legs real quick and then we'll sew it all together. Here I have my first 3 legs made. To begin, you use your size 4 yarn or your magic ring or your chain 2 method. Whatever you used for the head will work here. And same thing that we did with the head, we're going to start with 6 single crochets into your magic ring. Go ahead and close up that magic ring. And for the next round, we're going to increase 6 times. Now I'm going to secure my magic ring. Again, just pull everything nice and tight and then tie everything together with a few knots. During this next round, we are going to create our bobble toes. So I do this a very specific way so that the top of the bobbles don't peek through. So if you do a bobble in a traditional way, these lines right here will be white, but the way I color change the bobbles keeps the bobbles nice and clean. So I'm going to show you how I do that. First, we're going to start by single crocheting in the next 3 stitches. And now I'm going to yarn over with my bobble color, like so. Go ahead and insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and you want to repeat that 3 times total. Now you can add more or less incomplete double crochets to your bobble as you'd like. I just like to keep them on the smaller side for this pattern. Now the way we finish the bobble is how I do it differently. So I use the main color, the primary color, to finish the bobble. That way all of the bobbles have a blue, in this case blue, but primary color line over the top of it. Like I said, this just keeps it really nice and clean. Let's go ahead and put your primary color back down, yarn over with your secondary, and repeat the bobble in the next stitch. Finish it off with the primary color, like so, and then do another bobble one last time, so you have a total of 3 bobbles. And finally, yarn over with that primary color. We're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. Now we are going to cut our secondary color and tie the 2 ends together to secure them. For the next round, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. And then for the next round, we're going to decrease and then single crochet twice, and you'll repeat that 3 times total. And for the final round, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. To finish off, we're going to slip stitch, chain 1, and then cut our yarn. I like to leave a nice long tail, but you can also join a size 4 yarn on, which is what I normally do with this yarn. But like I said earlier, I don't really have a shade of blue that matches this, so we're just going to risk it and sew with this yarn. If you're interested how I use the size 4 yarn though, I do use it in my other tutorials in this series. So I have Belle the Baby Unicorn you can check out, Cooper the Cow, Cooper the Highland Cow as well. And then I also have Ellis the Elephant. So all of those, I believe I use the size 4 yarn. But that is the leg finished. The last thing you have to do is give it some stuffing. And make sure to make 4 legs. You wouldn't want a 3-legged hippo or a 5-legged hippo. Make 4 of those total, and then let's sew everything together. I do have some tips and tricks for a very seamless way of attaching limbs. So if you haven't seen me sew anything together yet, I recommend staying till the end. I know if you're like me, you usually skip that step and just go for it, but highly recommend at least just skipping through and hearing what I have to say. But I'm gonna zoom you out a little bit more again, and we're gonna get sewing. For this, I'm going to be using my plastic needle. Go ahead and grab any one of the legs. They're all the same. Thread your needle. And I personally like to eyeball placement, but I like to just put them against the body and kind of decide what's the best placement. I try not to go past here when it comes to the front legs. And then I also like them to be almost flat with the bottom of the body, but maybe a little bit closer to the ground, if that makes sense. And I'm just going to begin sewing. So the first thing I do is just simply attach the limb. So do 1 stitch for 1 stitch and try and keep it as even as possible. Also make sure that the bobbles stay up. That's kind of the tedious part. Once the leg is attached, I like to go back through and reinforce it. Now there's 2 things that make this step worth it. Obviously the first one is reinforcing it so it's a little more secure, but you also get rid of this seam. I know it's kind of harder to tell on this yarn, but usually there is a seam where the top of the single crochets kind of sit against the body. And the way I reinforce the leg just completely makes it disappear. The way I do this is by sewing around, kind of like when you front post single crochet, you're sewing around the post. And we're just going to go 1 for 1 again, 1 stitch for 1 stitch of the body, try and keep it as even as possible. Once you go all the way around, I'm going to secure the end. So I just do this by creating a loop, sticking my needle through it to create a knot, and then we'll weave that in. Now you're going to go ahead and repeat the exact same process on all the other legs. For the back leg, I like to put it up against the body about here, so in line with the front leg, maybe even a little tiny bit lower, but that's kind of where I usually place it. But let's sew it together real quick. And here is my hippo finished. Here is the leg placement for anyone curious once all of the legs are sewn on. I left about 3 rounds between the legs, but you can adjust the leg placement, of course, as desired. But this is my hippo finished. Thank you all so very much for watching to the end of this video. If you finished a hippo, please let me know. I'd love to hear what materials you used, what colors, all the amazing details. Please leave them in the comments. And if you choose to post your work, make sure to tag me so that I can see it. That is all I have for you today. If y'all have any tutorial suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm not doing any of my larger patterns, at least as of yet, because the videos will be very long. But if you guys want something else or maybe something new, definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments. I think that is it. Stay tuned for my next video, which will be a market vlog, of course. We are on episode 7, I believe. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I always forget to ask that at the beginning of the video, but here we are. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you so very much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!